So let's get started. Okay, so Parshas Vayigash, this week's Parsha, we are at the very end of Yakov Avinu's life. And the end of Yakov Avinu's life, this is the end of the first book. So what we're learning about in this Parsha is the end. We're learning about ends, because every miniature, every detail is a miniature of actually containing the entire system. So what that means is that Sefer Parshas, which is the first book, the first section, chelek of the Torah, within it, it actually contains the entirety of history, and it contains the entirety of Torah. Because since every single thing in this world is a manifestation of Hashem, and Hashem is everything, therefore every detail actually contains the entire system within that one detail. So what we're learning about now in Parshas Vayigash, which is the very end of the Torah, of Parshas, is we're learning about what it means to have endings. We're learning about the end of something. What does it mean to experience the end? And that's why it's no coincidence that Yaakov Avinu, in this week's Parsha, is bikesh legalos es haketz. He has a desire to reveal the end of ma yikra be'achres hayamim, what's going to happen in the end of days, what's going to be in the end. He wants to tell his children at the end of his life, he wants to tell them about the end, about the ultimate purpose, the finality, the culmination of world order, of world history. He wants to tell them about what is the end going to be. And that's why it's Vayigash Yaakov. The end is Vayigash, he's alive. Just like the end of Sarah Imenu's wife. The Parsha is called Chaye Sarah, which is her life, but it's the end of her life. Vayigash Yaakov, the end of his life, is called Vayigash, he's alive. Because actually, in the end of everything, is where we are going to be more alive than ever before. The end is actually life itself. So the end is Vayigash. But what happens? What happens in the end? So this is very important, because if we're talking about the ends of things, so many of us really live our lives, so much of our lives, actually thinking about the end. I don't mean that in a dark way. Chas v'shalom. I mean, we're thinking about something later. We're thinking about whatever we're doing now as leading to some eventual end. So why am I doing what I'm doing now? Because it's going to bring me to something at a later point. Why am I in school? Because it's going to lead me to get this degree, and that degree will lead me to the next stage. And at that next stage, it'll lead me to this next thing. Right? Why is a kid in elementary school to get to high school, and from high school to get to yeshiva or seminary or Israel or whatever it is, and then to get to college or to get a career, and why do they need that? To get married. Why are they getting married? To have kids and to have a family. Why are they having a family? And everything is leading to the next thing. Right? Why am I doing what I'm doing right now? Why am I going to work? I'm going to work so that I can make money, so that I can pay the bills, so that I can do what? Everything is for the next thing. So we live so often with what Yaakov Avinu is experiencing in this week's Parsha of bikesh legalos es haketz, ma yihya be'achres hayamim. We're thinking about everything we're doing now as really being about something in the future. Most of our lives are actually lived, that the now is lived for something in the future. And this is a major factor in what creates for a lot of people a kind of perpetual dissatisfaction, an ongoing sense of meaninglessness, really. This is what Koheles talks about when he says, with one of the aspects of what he talks about, Shlomo Melech describes in Koheles of Hevel Havalim, that everything is Hevel, everything is vanity, because if everything is just to get to some later point, but then when you get to the later point, that becomes about getting to the next point. And then when you get there, that becomes about getting to the next point. So everything is just kind of kicking the can down the road. So where's the meaning in anything? So our Parsha is coming to teach us something profound and fundamental about how to live and how to deal with this way that our brain functions of bikesh legalos es haketz ma'yia be'acharis hayamim, that everything is about the next thing and nothing is about now. How do we find meaning? How do we find fulfillment? How is anything meaningful? Right? I work and I do things so that I can go on vacation, and I go on vacation so that I can be refreshed, so I can go back to my regular life, and I'm in my regular life so that I can. So where is anything actually landing? So Yaakov Avinu wants to reveal the end, and he's about to tell them. He gathers his sons. Hey, Osfu, gather. Everyone come. Shimu, come listen. Come. I'm about to tell you the whole purpose, what it's all about. I'm about to tell you give you the ultimate reveal of what everything's for in the end, where it's all going to lead to. And then what happens? So Chazal tell us, all of a sudden, he doesn't know. And he has nothing to say. He forgets. Somehow his knowledge of whatever he was about to share is shut down. And so they're all gathered, and they're all with him, and they're all around his sons, his family. And he gathered to teach them about the end. And then in the end, he has nothing to say. And so Chazal say he started talking about other things. Since he couldn't do what he really gathered them for, he starts talking about other things. So the typical way to read this is that he wanted to reveal the end of days to them, and he couldn't. That's the typical reading. That's the pshat. That's the simple meaning of what Chazal tell us, is that Yaakov Avinu gathered everyone. Hey, Osvu, Shimu, right? Come, gather around, listen. I'm going to tell you the end, what's going to be, and then he couldn't tell it to them. Okay, so that's over. He couldn't tell them about what it was. But I think maybe there's another way to read it. I think there's a deep, deep secret embedded in this Chazal. I think what Chazal are really teaching us is that Yaakov did reveal the end. He did reveal the end. The revelation of the end is that there is nothing more important, there is nothing to live for more than this moment. That is the revelation of the end. The ultimate revelation of Yemos HaMashiach, the ultimate end of the whole thing, will be the experience of being completely and totally immersed, enveloped, and absorbed into complete presence of the meaning of just this moment. And in the end of days, that will be the whole thing. So when Yaakov said, hey, Osvu, Shimu, come, gather around, I want to tell you at the end. And then he had nothing to tell them besides talking to them in that moment, which wasn't about anything later on. He didn't give them anything about later. He didn't tell them the future. He didn't give them a nevuah about what's going to be in the end of the days. He just talked to them about right now, about them, who they are, what's happening right now. That was the revelation of the end. It's not that he couldn't reveal the end. It's that is the revelation of the end. The revelation of the end is that there is nothing besides now. We daven v'haser satan milfanenu umeacharenu. Remove the satan that's in front of us and the satan that's behind us. This is the satan of our mind, that is always thinking, okay, but what's going to be in the future? Either I'm living in anticipation of the future, I'm doing what I'm doing now because of some potential that I think will be in the future, or I'm living with anxiety about the future, that I'm thinking I can't handle what's happening now, I can't deal with what's happening now because I'm already projecting into how bad it's going to be and the future things that are going to go wrong. That's satan milfanenu, that my mind is in the end, it's thinking about the end, what's going to be. And satan me'acharenu is I'm thinking about the past, I'm regretting the past, I'm analyzing the past, I'm beating myself up for the past, or I'm feeling a sense of pride from the past, and therefore I fall into some sort of complacency because of the past. V'haser satan milfanenu me'acharenu, so that I can actually be in the now. That is the revelation of the end. This is why the Tzemach Tzedek says that the name of Hashem, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, spells Yud Hoveh. Yud is the letter of spirituality, of Hashem's essence, so to speak, on some level. Olam Haba is represented in a Yud. The Ruchni, spiritual world, is the letter Yud. And Hove means present. It means right now. And that's Hashem's name. Hashem's name is Yud Hove. It's Hashem in the present moment. Where do you find the Yud? Where do you find Hashem's revelation? In the present moment. That is the revelation that Yakov was giving his children of what the end to come is the being in this moment. Which I think is a struggle for so many of us in so many different ways. You know, one of the favorite teachings of my Rebbe, Rav Moshe Weinberger, is a teaching from the Divrei Yisrael of Majitz, where he's medayik in the pasuk. He points out that Hashem calls Moshe Rabbeinu up to Har Sinai. He says, Alei Elai Hahara. Hashem calls out to Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, come up, ascend the mountain to me. Veheyesham, and be there. So the Divrei Yisrael says, what do you have to tell me, Veheyesham, and be there, if you come up the mountain, so you're there, that's where you are. What do you mean you have to be there? So the Divrei Yisrael says, because it's not true. Because the Baal Shem Tov teaches us, we learned about this in the men's shiur last Thursday night. The Baal Shem Tov teaches us, B'makom shemachshavto shel ben adam, sham hu kulo. In the place where a person's thoughts are, that is where that person is entirely. So your body can be in one place, but you actually are not there. You're in a completely different place. You could be sitting in front of a person and you're not with them. You're in who knows where. And the irony, the sad reality, is that so often when we're with person X, we're thinking about person Y. And then when we're with person Y, we're thinking about person X. So we never end up being with person X or person Y. When I'm davening, I'm thinking about work. And when I'm at work, I'm thinking about davening. So I didn't work and I didn't daven. Where a person's mind is where they are. And this can be used in two directions. This can be a negative and a positive. Sometimes you're not where you're supposed to be because your mind is elsewhere. Sometimes when you're in a situation that you don't want to be in and that you don't think you should be present to, there's things around you that are not a good influence, things that are bringing you down, bringing your mood down, bringing your energy down, bringing your emunah down, bringing your optimism down. So you can take your mind and go elsewhere. And you don't have to be in the situation you're in. You can literally, what we talked about in the Thursday night shiur is in Harry Potter, right? They can apparate. They can just I don't remember how it goes, but they can apparate is the word that she made up, right? They can just go somewhere else. They can all of a sudden be somewhere else. You can literally apparate. You could be here, and in your mind, you could snap your fingers and you're somewhere else. And that goes in both directions. That means you can never be present, which is a problem. But on the other hand, it's a tool, it's a skill you can use when you're in situations that you want to get yourself out of. So says the Divrei Yisrael, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Alei lai hahara, come up on the mountain, veheyesham. Why does it have to say veheyesham? If you're there, you're there. The answer is no, it's not true at all. If you're there, totally not necessarily true that you're there. You could be sitting with someone, you could be sitting with your kids, you could be sitting with your spouse, you could be sitting with a friend, sitting with family, you could be sitting with a sefer, you could be sitting with a sitter. You can be doing anything, and you're not there at all. So Hashem is saying to Moshe, Veheyesham, number one, take your body and walk up the mountain. But maybe even more importantly, number two, Veheyesham, and be there, be here with me. Be in this moment, be present to this moment. And our Parsha is Vayichi Yakov. Yakov is alive, because at the end of days, we're all going to be alive. The Yaakov Avinu that lives inside of us, Yaakov Avinu lo meis, Yaakov Avinu doesn't die. The tzaddik is not actually dead, because the tzaddik is alive through everything that's living in this world. And everything that's living in this world is only alive through the tzaddik. Yaakov Avinu, Vayichi Yakov, Yaakov is alive. In the end of days, we're all going to be alive. What gives life? What's the Vayichi? How does Yaakov Avinu live in Mitzrayim? Where does it say Vayichi Yaakov? All these Parshios, Yakov was struggling and struggling. Finally, we get to Mitzrayim of all places. And Vayechi Yakov. Yakov is alive. In Mitzrayim, Yakov is alive. Because that was the end. And in the end, the revelation is that every moment is the end. That's the revelation of the end. That every moment is an end unto itself. That there's nothing more than this present moment. And there are so many aspects to what that means. Because it can help us. It's the medicine for us with so many challenges. People can feel so overwhelmed by so many things. Overwhelmed by a child that you don't know how to deal with, and you're worrying about what's going to be and what's going to be and what's going to be. But in this moment, is everything okay? Is everything fine? Even if it's hard, in this moment, is it manageable? So if I can live in this moment, I can live in this moment. Even something with someone's health, something with parnasa, something with any struggles. Rabbi Nachman teaches us, if you can live in the moment by moment, hayom, that's why whenever Hashem teaches us, tells us to do mitzvos, you'll find in the Torah again and again and again. Asher anochi mitzavcha, I command you, hayom, today. Im bekolo tushmo, if you listen to my voice, hayom im bekolo tushmo, today if you listen to my voice. You don't need to think about, can I do this forever? Can I handle this forever? Where is this going to go forever? What is this going to lead to? It's hayom, it's today, it's in this moment. And the meaning, the significance of what we're doing in every moment is about that moment. That's the revelation of the end. I'll leave you just with a quick story, a favorite of mine. Story I heard originally, I think, from Joey Rosenfeld. It's one of his favorite stories. Story of the Vitebsker Rebbe. So the Vitebsker was sitting with a bunch of his Hasidim, with a group of his Hasidim, and they were sitting, and they were farbrengen, and they were singing, they were sharing Torah. It was an incredibly exalted moment. And all of a sudden, the Vitebsker stands up, Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk, and he goes over to the window. He opens the window, and he sticks his head outside, like far outside the window, and he goes, takes a deep breath in through his nostrils, like smelling something. And he sits back down, and he kind of like shakes his head, and he says, he's not here yet. Some say, the Chassidim ask, well, what are you referring to? And he says, Mashiach's not here yet. I thought Mashiach might be here, so I went to smell. Mashiach ruach apenu, it's the nostrils. So I went to check, did Mashiach come? And he's not here yet. So one of the Chassidim asked, okay, but Rebbe, why did you have to go smell outside? You could have just checked from right here. You could smell right here. So the Vitebsker said, no, you misunderstood. The reason I went to check is because here I smell that Mashiach is here. The air in this room right now is the air of Mashiach. I can feel this is Mashiach. What I was going to check is, did Mashiach come for the whole world, or is it just here in this moment? And that's the inyan. That's the avodah, that's the work for us, is to be able to feel the Mashiach of every single moment. There's an ultimate Mashiach that will come. There's an ultimate Mashiach that will come, that we're waiting for, that's going to come. And when that Mashiach comes, we're going to feel the fullness of every single moment. But along the way, we're already able to live that Mashiach in each particular moment. The Vayechi Yakov. Because the Vayechi is the experience of noticing that the end is here right now. This moment is its own end. When we can do that, it's the medicine, it's the healing we need for so many of our ailments, the ailments of our minds. It's the medicine we need. So Hashem should help us to be able to be v'heyesham, to see the Vayechi Yaakov, the Galus Haketz, He'asvu v'Shimon. He's calling all of us together. Yaakov Avinu this week, this Shabbos, Yaakov Avinu is calling you to come listen, and he's telling you, you can live the end already right now in every moment of your life. Have a great Shabbos. Thank you.